Electricity went out from the entirety of Cairo the moment this tomb was opened. They also heard a very loud scream, and a sandstorm followed it, although Egypt never had a sandstorm in its history before that. All of this is something. And what happened to the archaeologists that opened the tomb is a whole other thing. Welcome to MEM, and today we will discover together what happened in the discovery of the tomb of the infamous Egyptian pharaoh king Tutankhamun. Let us start by having a small brief about King Tut. Then we will explore together what happened to the team of archaeologists responsible for discovering his tomb. In 1308 BC, then Tutankhamun was born. He was the youngest king to rule over the country, doing so at only 9 years old. When he became king, priests advised him to change his name from Tutankhamun to Tutankhamun. Unfortunately, although he was the youngest king to rule over Egypt, he only died in 1327 BC at only 19 years old. He wasn't able to achieve much during his reign due to it being very short. So what makes him the most notorious pharaoh of all time? This is due to the disasters that happened to the archaeology team that discovered his tomb. The discovery of King Tut's tomb was the birth of the term Curse of the Pharaohs. George Herbert, 5th Earl of Carnarvon, was infatuated with Egyptian monuments. So he made a deal with Egyptologist Howard Carter to sponsor and fund an excavation, which resulted 3 years later in the tomb being uncovered on the 4th of November 1922 in Luxor. Lots of workers were involved in the excavations, including a 13-year-old boy called Hussein Abdel Rasul. Hussein's job was to take his donkey, go to the Nile, and stock up on water to give it to all the workers in the excavation site. One time, he finished stocking the water and was heading back to the site when he noticed a stair step on the ground. So naturally, he ran back to Carter, and when he heard those news, he bolted with all workers to the location and began digging until they found that those stairs led to a huge underground tunnel that contained a tomb. Workers got very excited and wanted to open the tomb. But Carter asked them not to touch it until the Earl of Carnarvon is present, because he's the patron of the entire excavation. Now, with the presence of the 5th Earl of Carnarvon, Carter requested the tomb to be open, not knowing, unfortunately, that with doing this, they are unleashing hell upon them. They found many things, but most importantly, they found the coffin of what will be known later as King Tutankhamun. Moments after opening the coffin, they heard an ungodly scream, and when they looked behind them, they found a cobra inside Lord Carnarvon's canary's cage. He always had a habit of traveling with his small canary bird everywhere he went. The cobra twisted itself around the bird, suffocating it, and the Lord ran towards the cobra and killed it. However, unfortunately, the bird was not alive by then. You may actually say, so what? It's an old site in the depth of the desert where snakes survive the most. so it was completely normal to find one there. But no, this is not the case. What's crazy here is that this cobra is the same exact cobra carved on the coffin. And the moment Lord Carnarvon got rid of the cobra, a huge sandstorm happened, followed by a complete electricity breakout in the entirety of Cairo just seconds later. After taking a deep breath and recollecting himself outside of the tomb from what he just witnessed, one of the native Egyptian workers ran back to Lord Carnarvon and Carter to inform them there is a huge falcon flying around the tomb. Now remember, falcons were always used in Egyptian hieroglyphs as a symbol of God, and having a falcon flying around the tomb may have been a way to symbolize that Egyptian god Amun is watching, as the name Tutankhamun means a living image of Amun. Now, do you think this was the end of it? Absolutely not. One of the excavation team members was Egyptian businessman Mohammed Zakaria, who happened to be present while opening the tomb. Suddenly got severe fever and died the same night, even though he had no prior medical issues. You would also think the death of Lord Carnarvon's canary was the end of the streak, at least for him, but it was not. During the process of opening the coffin, he was stung by a small mosquito. It may not really seem like much until you find out he died the next day due to developing a severe blood poisoning that later in the day developed to pneumonia caused by the mosquito bite and activated by a small cut from his shaving razor. And the cut that resulted in his death looks identical to a cut King Tut had on his cheek. Lots of people denied the truth to this and dismissed it as an urban legend. However, legendary Egyptologist Professor Zahi Hawass later confirmed that King Tut indeed had a scar on his cheek that resembled the same cut Lord Carnarvon got from his shaving razor. Anyway, let's keep going. Howard Carter had a personal assistant called Arthur Callender, who unfortunately took his own life just 2 days after the discovery of the tomb. And according to everyone around him, he had no reason to do so at all. And his father followed him a couple of hours later due to his sadness about the loss of his child. The craziest thing of all of this is that during their funeral, the horse carrying the coffins stomped a small child and resulted in his untimely death. Now enough about the archaeology team. Let's talk a bit about the Egyptian workers in this project. All, and I mean all, of their houses got burned down, and all of them mentioned there was no reason at all for their homes to catch fire. The only one left from everyone involved in this excavation was Howard Carter, who wrote all of this in his memoir and neglected to mention the role of Hussein Abdel Rasul, who was the sole reason this discovery took place in November 1922. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share the video, and we will meet again soon in the next video. Take care.